This one was cool. So it's been rumored for a while, and I remember just like the slight rumors, but nothing ever like confirmed. Anyway, so here's some of the details we can get into, Gavin. So 2K Games officially announces it's working on a new Bioshock. This is from Kotaku. Ethan Gatch writes, today 2K Games announced the formation of a new studio called Cloud Chamber to work on the next Bioshock game that's still a few years out from release. Cloud Chamber is being headed by Kelly Gilmore, previously of Firaxis Games, best known for the Civilization and XCOM strategy games. Gilmore told IGN in an email that series alums Hoagie de la Plante, I'm going to butcher these names.
I think that was right, but I have no idea.
We'll see. That's my father, Hoagie de la
Plante. Okay.
Creative director on Bioshock 1 and 2. Yep. Scott Sinclair, art director, Bioshock 1 and Infinite, and Jonathan Pelling, art team creative director on Infinite. So there's a lot of alumni from the Bioshock franchise involved in this next game. How do you feel about another Bioshock game?
It was interesting. Like, I went into the comment section on this one, Destructoid, and instantly everyone started raving about how good Bioshock 2 was, and I thought that was interesting.
That's one I need to go back and play, because I've played the beginnings of it, but
the story's not that good. The beginning is not that good, but then you get to this one area where you get this like drill charge move, and then all of a sudden, like, every little gameplay addition they do from that point is gold, and you just have more and more options. And you can really play, like, you can do a drill only run at that point.
Gotcha.
And have like infinite ammo for your drill. It just suddenly becomes really fun. But the story wasn't that good.
I know when that was announced, it always, for some reason, it turned me off that it wasn't the original team working on it, but it was still in the Bioshock
right.
That original world. That always like pushed me away from ever giving it a chance.
Sure.
I don't know what it was about it.
I mean, kind of what it was is like, I'm not sure anyone really wanted another story in Rapture at that point. We wanted somewhere else fantastical. And that's sort of the weird challenge with this one is, where do we go? Some people are saying space. In my brain, I'm like, no, that's Prey though. Prey is like that's the true. Bioshock. That
I think
space
there's room
Bioshock.
there though, but yes, I understand what you're talking about. There is room to explore that. So that's you mentioned this potential where they could go. So this is from I pulled up this tweet from Leon Hurley. So he works for Games Radar, and he put out this tweet today. So he says, in quote, "Look, I'm not saying you can read anything into the new Bioshock studio being called Cloud Chamber. I'm just saying that a 1911 invention that makes the previously unseen world of subatomic particles visible is an interesting choice for the series." Referencing the fact that apparently Cloud Chamber is the name of this device in 1911 that makes the subatomic world visible for scientists. So does that play into the storyline, or is that just the name of this dev? I feel like that the name of that dev is going to coincide with something similar to the actual game being made, just similar like to like the Gears of War dev when they changed their name. So they're like they're the Coalition, which is like has to do with the storyline in Gears of War.
What who is this person that tweeted this?
So yeah, this is Leon Hurley of Games Radar, guides coordinator at Games Radar, formerly of Kotaku UK. So he just kind of he's bridging finding the correlation between these names and what that might mean for the story of Bioshock.
I mean, I don't know about subatomic, but like something microscopic could be fun. Like
that could just open up the whole like dimensional thing, because that's what they did in Infinite. They just
hated that so badly.
Yeah,
when I got to the end of that plot, I was like, I feel like there were several plot holes. I just don't know where they were.
Gotcha.
Like,
it's almost like an easy way out when you say anything's possible. See you later. Like, that's not what they did, but it's almost like that's how I felt they were tackling that.
I mean, I definitely liked like the final sacrifice that had to be made. I think that was appropriate. I just wish I understood it.
Gotcha.
And I didn't.
I think that, so you mentioned that at least at the time, no one wanted to, for the most part, go back to that Rapture world. But I wouldn't mind them going back there. I liked the way they built that like early 1900s or 1920s, weird dystopian futuristic city. I liked that idea. So I feel like they could explore that. But that's also, they did that in the DLC for Bioshock Infinite, where they went back to Rapture. So that might be time to explore something different.
Yeah, I just don't know where it's going to be on a farm. That's what it's going to be. Farm punk.
I think you have to follow a city format like they did in the previous ones. I don't know what that kind of city would be, but I feel like that would make it more familiar since it's a Bioshock game. I don't know what that would look like, but
we've done wind with the sky. We've done
water.
Wind
the sky, I'm in the water.
So we got a volcano, and then we've got subterranean. A lot of people are saying subterranean. Volcano wouldn't be too bad.
That'd be cool.
I feel like it doesn't make sense. Like, who's saying, let's go live in a volcano away from the
It didn't work for
democracy.
Any of these guys, but it worked for me.
Right.
And also, the previous games were heavy on the story, where they tied to somewhat real world conflicts with, like, in Infinite, there was this like heavy racism, weird like elitist stuff going on. With the first one, there were similar ideas with like class based stuff and Ayn Rand themes going on. So they'd have to play on similar story things, just like pushing the boundaries and having some kind of thing to say in the first place.
One thing I still love from Infinite was they brought out the science fact, this science concept for why the city could levitate. And there's this, like, I forget what it's called. It's like this locking thing, because really you can't just throw a fucking city on top of a bunch of balloons and have it float. So they put it in as this something locking, which you can do if you hyper cool something down to a certain temperature, and then like you can find videos online where it'll lock with this metal track, and you can flick it, and it'll just whiz around the track super duper quick.
But the entire town, that was a tech for like.
That was the concept. So there are balloons, and maybe that controlled stuff, but the locking kept it locked with the earth, so it wouldn't fall down. Interesting,
gotcha. Yeah, I mean, there was always a heavy emphasis on some kind of scientific, like, a basis in real life, like with the those twins that you find in Infinite. They're using this like this dimensional stuff that it plays into real life science from what we understand somewhat. So there's like plays on, or like causality. Like there's a lettuce twins, I want to say they're called, or like the lettuce brother and sisters.
The twins.
I want to say they're twins.
Do you know they're actually not twins?
Are they not?
They're the same person from two different realities.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yes.
So
gotcha.
Even I think it's the fact that one's a man and one's the woman that makes it confusing. But yeah, they're the same person from two different realities.
Gotcha. I see.
Which is neat.
Yeah, and so they play on actual scientific stuff, and then they explore that more. But I'm on board. Like, I've always been on board ever since the last one. I'm super stoked. I really love the first Bioshock. I remember like seeing the trailer for the first time. So this does keep unfolding. So once 2K announced that they're working on this, they have a new studio that's working on this, bringing back Bioshock. So Jason Schreier of Kotaku, who breaks a bunch of different news stories, tweeted this article today from Kotaku. A new Bioshock has been in the work for years, is the article, and I'll go into detail on this. So this is from Jason Schreier. This morning, video game publisher 2K announced that it had formed a new studio to work on a brand new Bioshock game. What 2K didn't say is that this project has already been in works since at least 2015. Although it's been rebooted since then.
Well, so is Metroid.
That's true. So I guess he goes into you're right. And so and that's the norm for a lot of properties, right? They work on a concept, they shelve it. That's kind of the thing.
It just makes me nervous because every Bioshock, except for 2 maybe, has been in development hell the entire time it's been in development.
You're exactly right. He ends that article mentioning that too. So he says the original Bioshock went through a big reboot and brutal crunch at developer Irrational Games. The second Bioshock, which was made by a studio called 2K Marin, also put its developers through tough crunch before they moved on to the ill-fated XCOM. This led to 2K quietly shutting down its Marin studio, which
they made the Bureau?
XCOM, which I didn't know was it critically panned or just didn't sell, or I don't remember, because I know the XCOM.
I think critically series, it was panned. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, it didn't help that they put out 2 XCOM games at the same time. One was what fans wanted, and the other was the Bureau, which was just okay.
Gotcha. So just by comparison, it didn't.
Yeah.
I see. So yeah, you're right. It's been, they're no stranger to these cancels and restarts with the Bioshock series, but apparently, so this is a new studio working on it, but it was worked on by another developer for a while. That's what the article was talking about. So the truth is that Bioshock 4, codenamed Parkside, has existed for years, according to 4 people familiar with the project.
Parkside.
That's the codename. Long before today's announcement, 2K had contracted an outside studio to do it. In 2015, Parkside was entering development at Certain Affinity, the Austin, Texas-based studio best known for helping out on huge shooters like Halo and Call of Duty. This Parkside team stayed small as their new Bioshock entered early pre-production. This was a big opportunity for Certain Affinity, which was founded in 2016 by ex-Bungie developer Max Hoberman and had mostly subsided on contract work for external publishers. By the end of 2016, however, 2K had pulled the project out of Austin and decided to take it take it next to Bioshock in-house, rebooting it in the process. But I wonder if that's not the norm, but that's a common story behind the scenes where a developer is working on it and they, for whatever reason, they weren't happy with what they were producing, and they said, "Hey, we're gonna," and maybe they kind of pick apart different ideas from that, because I imagine that it's a contractor, so they don't own those different things they've added to the concept, and they take that concept and run with it.
Yeah, they're fully okay to do that.
Gotcha.
It surprises me that we heard about it. I'm surprised that wasn't buried.
Gotcha. Apparently, Kotaku had reported on that, so that's all from them talking to different people in the industry, realizing that had happened and got shelved.
Yeah. I'm gonna be really curious to see what it's like without Levine on it.
That's the thing. This is the first one without him, right?
Yeah. 2 didn't have him,
2, yeah.
but I always still think he's the reason why these games took so long to make, and he keep changing stuff on them. And I think that was probably very stressful on these devs when they don't have when the core vision for the game keeps fucking changing. Yeah, that's gonna drive you nuts. That's not how you lead a development team. So I think it's gonna be really interesting. Seeing this happen. That being said, as much as I will shit on Kevin Levine, if you watch interviews with him, he's a super cool dude.
Oh yeah, he seems like a visionary, super intelligent guy. Yeah. Although that's funny because he created after Infinite, they shut down that studio. He created his own side studio that he went full production into, but they haven't produced a game I don't think since Infinite.
Right. And then you see a lot of the devs from Bioshock made that We Happy Few game.
Right.
And
you know what? The Gone Home team, that dev was a lot of them were from the DLC. I think it was Marina's Den or from Bioshock 2. Like a lot of them are from that Bioshock 2 DLC, which is a heavy emphasis on story and exploration and stuff. So yeah, a lot of these people, branched out and created cool stuff after that.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a case of just AAA talent. Like you throw them out there, they're going to make good shit.
Yeah.
They can't not. It's in their blood.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah. So we'll see. Now, the next thing I wonder is when do we hear or see a trailer, some kind of an actual announcement?
22.
22?
Yeah.
That's fair because they actually haven't started on this until 2017, I want to say they said.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Oh, maybe 21 then. If they actually started in 2017. I think that's doable. Like if you have a proper person leading this, you have proper funds. Yeah, they could do it in 3. That's not. I mean, these are big games. They have a lot of content, but they're also linear, which do we see simplifies things.
Right, that does simplify things. When do we see maybe an announcement trailer? Do you think it's funny that they would say, "Hey, we're working on this thing" before they have something to show?
Yes,
that does seem strange, especially since we're in the week of. We'll get into it, but we have Game Awards, we have PlayStation having their own event, we have Nintendo having their own event. It seems like a prime time to show something off. It seems weird that they would go before all that.
I think they knew a leak was coming.
I wonder.
Like they fired someone that was just like,
yeah,
fuck you in your NDAs. It's like, well,
that's a lot of it is like companies just trying to, which that's a whole other subject. But like, why does the video game industry in general have to keep things under wraps so much? You have stuff like Marvel. They give you the next 10 fucking years of movies planned out. Right. And so why did they have to be so secretive?
I mean, it'd be nice to be surprised every now and then.
Like, it's fun. It's fun to be able to have the mic drop moment where you walk on stage at whatever place or whatever award show and you show Halo 23 and then everyone
what's that latest Kojima game? Like when that first showed off its trailer, like we knew something weird was coming, and then it came, and we were not prepared for how weird it was going to be, and we should have been. By all rights, we should have known. We should have been able to predict the exact weirdness to appear. Like, I bet there's going to be a baby inside someone's esophagus.
How does he top this now, too? Like, he's gotten so weird, on his own now. So how do you make this more, continue the weirdness? I wonder.
Pachinko machines. That's what he's like, you know what? Konami had it right. Turned my property into pachinko machines.
You win a baby when you play this pachinko machine.
Oh, God.
So, Gavin, we'll see when we finally hear something about the new Bioshock game that's confirmed.